Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk to you about the idea of using an escalation clause in a competitive offering for a new listing. So I want to talk about what is an escalation clause, what are the advantages, and what are some of the myths that go along with that. So many of you maybe have not heard of the idea of an escalation clause because it's not been something in our market that has been used historically. However, it has become pretty common in this highly competitive seller's market. So here's a scenario. You've got a brand new listing that's beautiful, move-in ready, $100,000. This is a hypothetical scenario. And there's 20 showings in the first day with 5 offers. This is a hypothetical, but it's been happening a lot. You know you really want this house and you want to put your best foot forward. In fact, in your mind, you think it's maybe worth more like 130, but they're only asking 100. So what do? Well, historically, you may have just shot in the dark and offered the full 130, and maybe you got that house, but you always wonder, did I overpay for that house? What were the other offers? Could I have gotten it for less? Well, because the truth is, you're not going to get to see those other offers. You won't know. So an escalation clause takes away some of that guesswork. So what is an escalation clause? An escalation clause says that you're going to make an offer of a certain dollar amount. Let's just call it $100,000, the asking price. But you're going to outbid any competing offer by a certain amount. Let's just call it $1,500. And up to a certain amount. Let's just call it $130,000. So let me review. It's listed for $100. You're offering the full $100, but you're going to outbid any competing offer by $1,500 up to $130. So it may be that you have to pay the full $130 because another buyer came in and offered $128.5. But what it does is if those other 4 offers are in the 110, 115 range, let's say the highest offer is 115, it automatically makes your offer now 116.5. You've outbid that other buyer by 116.5. And make no mistake, this is only talking about price. Terms are very important in an offer. Terms like type of financing, closing date, repairs that you're asking for, inspections are huge. There's many other ways to be very competitive in this highly competitive market. It's a really good seller's market, very competitive for buyers. So that escalation clause, what it does is there's no shooting in the dark with just a high offer just to try to get it and not knowing what money you left on the table. The other thing is when there's multiple offers, a lot of times the seller will go back and ask all of the buyers for their best and final offer. And then you're like, what do I do? How much do I offer? You're kind of negotiating against yourself in your original offer. Well, this takes that away too. You don't really need to do another offer because you've already said, no, my offer is 100. I'm going to outbid anybody by $1,500 up to $130,000. Maybe somebody offers 140, then you're not going to get it. But as long as it's under that 130, you're going to get it. Truthfully, though, the seller could choose another offer, though, because of the other terms. So it keeps you from overpaying, shooting in the dark. Now, what are some of the myths involved? One of the myths is that, the seller's just going to go ask Uncle Bob to go make some fake offer, which would drive my price up. However, the way our escalation clause is written in our market is that you have to provide that written contract on our MLS contract showing that it's an arm's length transaction, meaning not somebody in family or anything like that. So I've never seen that happen, although it is a common myth I hear. The other myth is, what if the seller just sees my top dollar and just counter offers right at that top dollar? So the escalation clause doesn't even come into play. They just see what I'm willing to pay and counter offer at that amount. Well, maybe they do. You're willing to pay it, right? You don't have to accept that counter offer. It's just like any other counter offer. You could counter offer their counter offer and come to an agreement on the price you like. But most of the time you're doing this because you really want the house and you would pay up to that amount. And you know that there are probably other offers on the table. So if they were to counter offer, now the ball's in your court. You either accept it because you really want the house, or you counter offer back to them and try to get it for a little less. That ball is in your court. Now, one other consideration to be more competitive is that if you are truly asking that much more, in this hypothetical situation, we're talking 30% above asking price, 130, and if you get it for that amount, the seller may have some reservations if there's a loan involved, because then there's going to be an appraisal, and what if the appraisal doesn't come in high enough? Then they're not actually getting all of that money. So to be more competitive, and again, this is not for everybody, but to be more competitive, you could write into the contract that you would be willing to make up the difference between purchase price and appraised value up to a certain amount. That gives the seller reassurance that they're actually going to get this amount if it doesn't appraise for what you offered. It's worth it to you for the 130. So whether or not an appraiser says it's worth it, you'd be willing to cover the difference. Now, again, that strategy and escalation clauses in general are not for everybody. It depends on the situation, and it depends on your risk level and how much you want the house, frankly. I wouldn't suggest doing something like this on a house that's been listed for a long time with probably no other interest. Why do this? Just make an offer like normal. But if it's a highly competitive one, this is a good tool to have in your tool belt, and talk to your realtor for some more details. I hope this was helpful. We'll have more tips on here as well. Thanks.